Hey, 1 2 1 2. You know how we do. It's your boy BQ with a rare edition of the B-Side podcast, brought to you by the Impact Lounge YouTube channel. Some of you guys have been asking how you can support me. There's going to be various ways coming in the future. There is a Patreon coming. It's going to be very, very affordable, very simple. It's not going to be crazy. Save your money for your favorite wrestlers and people of that nature. But there's going to be a way that you can support if you would like. Also, if you check the show notes or description of this particular podcast, you can find a link there that says buy BQ a coffee. You can click on that, buy me a coffee. I'm a coffee drinker, and that's a way you can support as well. And that's all I got to say about that for right now. I'm going to throw this out there real quick before I get to my topic of the day for the guy that every time I do a B-Side podcast says he hates the name of my podcast and I need to change it. That's not going to happen. I don't have to make a wrestling related title. It's the B-Side. It's my take on things. And I appreciate each and every one of my listeners, and I always have, but I'm not desperate at the same time. Like, if there's something you don't like about me or what I do, like, don't listen. Like, there's other podcasts to listen to. It's not, knock yourself out. Find what works for you. Find what you like. If you like the title of someone else's podcast better, then, go listen to theirs. Who cares what they talk about? Go listen to them based on the title. Go ahead and do that. Let's move into the topics and things that I want to talk about. First thing I'm going to say, I'm only about 20 minutes through this episode of Impact from last night. So today I'm recording this on Wednesday. It's gonna release on Thursday. I really liked the episode so far. We're gonna talk about it deeper on the Cool Factor podcast, but I want to throw that out there right now. I really liked the first 20-25 minutes of the episode. Really, there was very small details. I love small details, that I was really happy with where that was going. The big news from last night's episode, remember I'm doing this on Wednesday, was the announcement of what I would imagine to be the main event at Hard to Kill, which is Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns against the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega. I can't remember the last time, and granted I don't watch every wrestling show or company, that a company used a tag team match to be their main event of a pay-per-view. I kind of grew up off that a little bit. I'm just pulling a random match out my ass here, but it was like the Macho Man and Mr. Perfect versus Ric Flair and Razor Ramon, main event for Survivor Series, or it might have been SummerSlam, something like that. But I kind of grew up off that kind of stuff too. I feel like that prolongs feuds. If you go to a pay-per-view, like, the title doesn't have to be on the line all the time. You can you can sometimes throw the champions into tag matches. At the same time, I have a hard time believing that you're going to have the Impact World Champion and the Tag Team Champions in a match where nothing's on the line. I have no information on this. I'm just saying, don't be surprised if they put a stipulation that if, whoever pins each other can win that title, or the winning team will have the other team's belts, something like that. I think a lot of people expect Kenny Omega to win the Impact World title at some point. And we like Rich Swann. I don't know that it's a standalone big match if they put the two of them against each other. So this made more sense. We don't know if they'll do a one-on-one between those guys. But this is going in a good direction. It's a fun direction. We saw I don't know what as I'm talking to you right now, I don't know what the viewership on Access TV was. I know that Twitch was, I think, peaked at like 15,000, which was quite a big drop from last week. But I hope for most of you knew that was to be expected. You've possibly heard me say before, episode number 1 of something is usually the big hit. That's usually where all the curiosity is. If you think the first episode of NWA, if you think the first episode of AEW Dynamite, like, usually those are the big numbers, and then they drop quite a bit. I think there was a lot of viewers who were disappointed at the end of the show. I wasn't. I enjoyed it. They talked in circles for about 10 minutes, said nothing, but at the same time, they still said something. If you're a real wrestling fan and understand, storytelling, you were probably happy with this. If you're one of those people that wants something right now, you probably weren't very happy with it. And I can imagine a lot of those people, fell off for that reason. And we don't know what the access numbers are going to be. I'm going to assume, based on the drop in viewership for Twitch, I'm going to assume the Access TV viewership is about 20,000 more than average. So if it's usually like 166, I'm going to say it's going to be closer to 190 this week. Just based off those numbers. We'll see. We'll see how accurate that is. Hopefully it's still going strong. But Hard to Kill looks like it's going to be a really good show. So start saving your money now. I know that it's Christmas time. This time of year kicks my butt every year with 4 kids. No matter how little I try to buy, I spend quite a bit. So, but try to put that money aside for Hard to Kill. Here's the main topic I want to talk about. Is that, and I've been teasing this podcast for a little while now about talking about this. My opinion on why Impact mainly benefits from this connection that they have with AEW right now. Everything that they're doing. Now that we know this match is coming, I'm not expecting a slew of more AEW crossovers at this point. I think this is what they're building towards. They're going to see what happens and go from there. Because this is the biggest possible match. They don't need anything else. They don't need to be like, okay, what other AEW shit? This is a big match. Maybe in the future, when this has died down, like, okay, we're going to do 2 matches. But, I expect them to do this a match at a time. But this is why I think they benefit the most from working with AEW. It's not just because they have, many more viewers and they're a hotter product in the United States. They have a larger roster and this big budget. And yes, AEW is the best possible scenario of someone to work with. They've tried Ring of Honor. They've tried New Japan. They did a lot of small indie companies, which made for some interesting wrestling, but it wasn't moving the needle. AEW was a best case scenario, and there's the obvious. There's so many more eyes. You saw the numbers last week on Access TV and Twitch and YouTube. You saw how big the numbers were. But this is where they really benefit, is that AEW's fan base, and I say this as someone, I don't have anything against their fan base because it's a product that I think is really good and that I already watch. They're not the crossover is not convincing me to watch AEW. I already watch it. But the fan base likes everything they do almost. There's a few things that they don't. They're very outspoken about. Brandy Rhodes had this Nightmare Collective. They're outspoken about the Dark Order, which I love the frickin' Dark Order. So there's certain things that they're like, hey, we don't like it. But for the most part, if guys like Cody, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Adam Page, a lot of these guys, FTR, what they say is the gospel for them. If they're like, hey, watch this, people will probably tune in. Because here's the weird thing about wrestling fans. It's WWE fans too. They feel like, they don't feel like a good portion of them don't know how to make up their own mind about something and to just enjoy something because they enjoy it. There was a time in my life where I mean, it's a long time ago, where I had a hard time enjoying TNA because some people are like, well, we don't like it. And I just got that narrative, but in time, I was like, I don't care what people say. Let me watch this objectively, and I've watched it ever since without caring what other people think. That's the type of person I am. Not every wrestling fan is like that, though. Growing up in Southern California, you would think with the sports teams, I would be a Dodgers fan. I would be a Lakers fan. I grew up an Angels fan, a Clippers fan. To a lesser extent now, I'm a Chargers fan instead of a Rams fan. I've never been much of a bandwagon jumper. I've always liked to just like something because I like it and not feel the pressure to. So that's what really drew me to Impact, at one point where I just watch it objectively, Not a lot of people do that. And I saw on a Facebook thread that this one guy's like, I tried to watch, this was last week, I tried to watch Impact and I shut it off after 25 minutes. And I responded, I said, it sounds like you were trying to find a reason to turn it off. Because the first match you got was Chris Sabin versus Josh Alexander, if I'm not mistaken, from last week. That was a pretty damn good match. It wasn't as balls to the walls they probably could have gone, but it was a pretty damn good match. And then they did the Brian Myers versus TJP, and some people maybe are like, oh, that's Kurt Hawkins. You know what I mean? But I'm one of those people. I'm a big Brian Myers fan. I've liked everything he's done in Impact. So, for me, that was a really good match. TJP doesn't put on good matches. It's like impossible for him. I mean, doesn't put on bad matches. It's impossible for him. So that was a good match. And then I said, I'm going to assume you didn't watch a Knockouts match, but the women, and I like the AEW women's division, they get a bad rap as like some shitty women's division. They're not. But I said the Knockouts matches are better than anything you see on AEW for the most part. And then even that opening match with Sabin and Josh Alexander, I told the guy, I was like, dude, that match is no different than something you'd see on Dynamite. So some people are just conditioned to be like, I don't like it, Not enough wrestling fans are just like, I'm just going to, dude, if I like it, I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to listen to the outside chatter. So the AEW fan base is very, the core fan base. They kind of do what the company says. We're not innocent here, because I think as Impact fans, there's a lot of Impact fans that likes everything Impact does. I hear from those people quite a bit who tell me what a piece of shit I am and what a horrible fucking representation I am for someone who covers Impact, because I'm, so negative, But then I get on the flip side the people who are just like, man, you call it down the middle. I say this all the time. You've heard me. If it's good, I'll say it's good. If it's not, I'm gonna say it's not. But too much in that fan base are too influenced. For them to turn into Impact, they're tuned into Impact this week. They actually had to be given permission. AEW had to be like, hey, we're giving you permission to watch Impact this week on Tuesday. It's okay. You're not cheating on us. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not losing your mark status. Just watch Impact. It's okay. We promise. And then you see the big jump in the viewers. Some fans need that. So that's why it was a best case scenario for Impact to work with a company like this, because it's like, well, this company's hot. They have momentum, and they have a fan base who does what those up here say, what Tony Khan says to do. So we're gonna see more people watching the show now, because they're they feel like it's okay. Some wrestling fans need permission. If you think about when Matt Hardy joined WWE and they did some special for him on the WWE network, and then at the end, they used some TNA footage, and then at the end they were like, for more footage, download the Global Wrestling Network. It was just a little blurb. Impact, sure enough, that day set the Global Wrestling Network. Anyway, Impact, sure enough, set a record that day for downloads for the Global Wrestling Network. Because for that split second, WWE, who has always said don't watch the product, so without saying it, gave them permission, and they're, oh shit, it's cool now. Okay, cool, we'll do that. So that is that's a big problem. Here's the other point I'm gonna make, is that Impact does a lot that is good. There's areas where I, in my heart, feel they took steps backwards in the last couple of years. But there's a lot of areas where they have taken steps forward. There's a lot good that they're doing. Granted, up until this point, I started getting a little bored with the empty arena stuff and kind of the reliance on comedy lately. A lot of you agree with that. So this has been a breath of fresh air for me. But it doesn't matter what Impact does that's positive, until these other wrestling companies respect Impact. In the eyes of fans, they don't need to respect them either. What happened when NWA kicked off? Billy Corgan said right away, we're not working with Impact. Granted, they had less people that watched their products, but that's a whole. But they have a core fan base too. Everyone knows I love NWA, but they have a core fan base too. And that core fan base was told, hey, don't watch this. We're not even going to work with them. So we're going to work with everybody else, but not these guys. And then you had WWE. They won't acknowledge anything, not even with AJ Styles pass, which is crazy. James Storm, remember, he showed up on NXT. This was towards the end of me watching NXT. I probably punched out about 3 months after that. James Storm shows up. And oh, James Storm's fresh off the indies. So for the NXT fan base, if they're hearing, hey, that TNA is the indies, why would they give a shit? They wouldn't, because they're told not to. Ring of Honor has not wanted to work with them, and they were really hot at one point. New Japan hasn't wanted to. These companies won't even acknowledge them. That's what's crazy right now. We're actually hearing the words Impact Wrestling on AEW. It's bananas. But these companies are basically telling their fan bases, it doesn't matter how big or small they are, like, this company isn't important. They're in their own world. They're on their own island. What they do is their own thing, and the rest of the wrestling world is over here. If you're a wrestling fan, you're over here, and then there's, this island of misfit toys over here. But now that Impact in the eyes of AEW is like, hey, it's okay to watch this, they needed something like that to get to really see some growth. Now, there's a lot of those fans who are like, oh, well, I'm still not watching. There's some who are very hard-headed. Fuck them. But there are going to be some new viewers. All these things I talk about, though, fix the YouTube channel, fix the commentary, fix Impact Plus and the streaming issues, the account issues that they have. Let's hold back on the bad comedy a little bit. All these things, I don't say that to just complain. I say those things because you have to tighten up those things, because at some point there was going to be a boom of new eyes. They had it after Slammiversary, and they're having it again now. But if you get on YouTube, like, well, let me look at up the north. FTR's calling them out. The Young Bucks are calling them out. And then we look them up, and you see these angles of them fighting and this karate shit and losing to the Wee Nominal one. Like, that's why I'm just like, dude, you create some YouTube content, some shit people can dig into, some get behind the wrestler, because they'll probably watch a little blurb, little mini documentary before they watch some highlights. I've talked about the commentary. We're gonna go a podcast without talking about the commentary, but that was an issue for a lot of these new fans. The commentary. So I've always talked about fixing these little things, because you got to be on your A game at all times. And even though I thought last week's episode was pretty good, I thought the commentary was good, there was still enough of like fuckery on it where people were like, dude, what is this? That the Money Roll storyline, dude, bad. I've recently realized some people like that storyline, but up until yesterday, I've never come across a single person who did. So there's some things that I think are going to continue to hurt them. So, someone told me it's long-term storytelling, like with a bunch of lower card guys. Like, let's be real here. Where is this going? It's going nowhere. But this is where Impact's going to benefit from this. It's going to be the AEW fan base has given this large fan base, they have permission to watch Impact. It's unfortunate that they need that permission, but they have permission, and it's going to help the company. And the company is now saying, okay, it's cool to work with them. Now, if the ROHs of the world and the NWAs want to be in the good graces of AEW and still remain in those good graces, then they're probably going to have to start coming around on Impact a little bit too. So that's everything I got to say. This is going to wrap up this episode of the B-Side Podcast. Again, if you want to support BQ, you can buy me a coffee in the show notes description. There is a Patreon coming. It's just going to have a couple tiers. It's going to be very, very simple. But I'm working on it, and I'm working on merch too. It's crazy that I've had this channel this long and haven't really had any merch. So working on that as well. And hope you guys dig it. Hope you guys dug this podcast. And if you're the first time here, first time listener, we'd love to have you back. We've got lots of great podcasts within the Impact Lounge Network. There's like the Impact Republic podcast. That's a monthly podcast that we just dropped episode 1, and everyone's liked that so far. The Cool Factor podcast every week, and then Shooting Up North with Louis Carlin. So we got some good stuff, and there's another little project that I've been working on for a little while, but it's kind of getting pushed off. But it's another kind of podcast that I'm working on, something very different. So hope you guys dig. Thanks for swinging by. I'm your boy BQ, and I'm out.